You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB.
Now, great pleasure to welcome to News Talk ZB across New Zealand. 95 Test Irish number 8, Jamie Heaslip. Jamie, great to get the chance to chat. Before we talk anything about this game, how are you feeling as an Irishman? Confident, nervous, excited, a bit of all of those things? How would you describe your emotions with this game looming?
Oh, God. Well, I think in our psyche, we are innately uncomfortable. Being confident is probably the best way to describe it. I mean, we always have the what if kind of scenario in our head, and we're immensely. I think as a nation, people are immensely proud of this group, and I think in a really strange way, we're out of COVID longer than we were in COVID, but I think there's been feels like a deeper reconnection with the team and supporters here in Ireland, and then that's been reflected in the atmosphere at the games. People are traveling from all around the world. Like, Irish supporters are amazing in general. They travel from pretty much everywhere around the world. So we kind of, no matter where the team are playing, they always come out in force. But World Cup is extra special. I think you would have experienced that back in 2011, New Zealand. It felt like to me, it felt like we were in Ireland at times, to be honest. And this is no different in Paris. So there's a lot of excitement around it. The fans have got this nervous energy, and people are nervous because of the quality that we're playing. It's, you know what I mean? Like, if you look across, there's 4 teams in this quarterfinal stage that could win this competition, right? And that's just the way it's kind of fallen. And I've no doubt the winner of this game on Saturday, and the winner of the game in the South Africa-France game, they're probably going to be the 2 teams in the final. And to be honest, on any given day, and this is why Irish people are nervous. Yes, we came into this competition as number 1 in the world. We particularly over the last 2 years, the team have done everything that's been asked of them. They've gone to New Zealand. They won a Test series in New Zealand. That was a massive challenge to do that. And they beat every top tier side, kind of over the last 2 years, essentially. And then they kind of use that playbook that the 03 England team have, which is kind of, you have a really good summer series, really good November series. You roll in, you win a Grand Slam in the Six Nations, and it just tees you up really, really well. And they kind of follow in a very similar playbook here. And even despite all that, we're still nervous because of the respect we have and the quality that's in front of us in New Zealand. And New Zealand this is mad, that like they have come in so under the radar, but definitely up here in the Northern Hemisphere, like they came in so under the radar. No one's really talking about them, and not because they're bad or anything, just because I suppose we're probably, well, in Ireland, we've got the green tinted glasses on, and if we're not talking in the Six Nations, if they're not talking about Ireland, they're talking about France. Essentially, and we probably get a little bit more exposure to the South African sides now because of the URC comp and the way they play in Europe. So that's why New Zealand probably come in under the radar. But that's a dangerous place to be in, because New Zealand is just such quality. They'll have someone like, if I talk about Ireland for a second, and apologies if I am going on about Ireland, but this team have they've taken the best qualities that Joe Schmidt gave them, and Andy Farrell has added to it. So what I mean by that is, Joe is a master at finding a team's weakness and exposing it. So with set plays, complex plays, to move the pieces around the chessboard to expose it, and then boom, you exploit it. And he's the best at that. And I think Andy's taken those good bits, brought it forward, but also added, a different kind of mindset, a much better cohesion in the squad, both on and off the field, and also has pushed him to be, and I don't mean this in a bad way because I've the utmost respect for Joe, but to be more comfortable with risk. And what I mean by that is they play a little bit more free, potentially at times a little bit more, you could say loose, but I think they've done it over 4 years that they're very, very comfortable with it. And in a strange way, play a little bit like when I used to play against New Zealand, very quite envious of the way they played with a sense of freedom, with an amazing offloading game, an amazing structure when they played in multi-phase game. And I think Andy's brought a lot of that through. A lot of it has to do with the good work Stuart Lancaster has done in Leinster, which kind of the majority of the squad is from Leinster. That's kind of bled through over the last couple of years. And Andy's taken all that best parts of different people and different structures to make this team a really dangerous team. And that's why we're confident. But then, then you look at the opposition and then you see that Joe is part of the coaching staff and you go, oh, I literally text him. I text Joe on Sunday and I was like, if I was playing, I shudder at the thought of the analysis you're doing on exposing my weaknesses. And that's it there. But like, obviously Joe's only one part of it. But, not that I fear a side like New Zealand, who's, they've got a score to settle. We took a scalp in your backyard, and Kiwis are competitive, and they definitely want to get a scalp back. And what a great stage for two titans of rugby to come together and have a battle and see who can take that scalp.
Absolutely. Gee, what a summary. What a summary of what lies before us. Can I just take you back, though, to 2016, that historic win in Chicago?
Yeah.
You were such a big part of that, obviously. In hindsight,
randomly, here's a random fact for you. I have very, very, now, granted, I have this in the background, right? But I swear I have very little rugby stuff, or I don't even have any medals I've won or stuff or jerseys that I have. They're all still in a box upstairs in the attic. I have this up. I have a gift someone gave me the day I retired, which is hanging up in the toilet, the downstairs toilet. And the only other thing I have, and it's literally just over the other side of the camera here, is the ball from that day signed by all the Ireland players. That's the only thing I have because that was, I don't want to, I know you want to ask a question, but that was such a important win for us because we set our standard that we were setting to was New Zealand standard, right? In terms of consistency, like they were like dominant over like an 8-year period, right? And that to do that in sport, in an environment that like you've got this kind of creative destruction kind of environment in sport, right? Where what gets you your competitive edge, might last. It doesn't even last a season now, or it might last a season, right? But you've always got to be tinkering that. You always got to be changing that. And then in sport, naturally, you have that attrition of people just coming out. And New Zealand somehow managed to keep that for 8 years. And I remember Declan Kidney back in 2008. I think we went on tour there. I think that was my first tour to New Zealand. And we were doing something like we were going to be playing New Zealand like 3 times in 4 years, as well as going on tour there for the World Cup in 2011. I ended up there like 4 times in 4 years or something mad like that. We went back in 2012, I think, was it? Yep. Yeah, 2012.
Yep.
I had a lovely occasion of getting sent off in 2010 down there. That's a whole other discussion of how I felt like I was up for murder or something when I was going in for the citing commission. That's what happens when you knee Richie McCaw in the head.
I was just going to say that. That's exactly what you did. So
But some might argue he deserved it, but that's only people outside of New Zealand that would say that. But anyway. Geez, I would have got a 4-month ban at this doing that nowadays, which I would have deserved, by the way. Where's I going with that? Yeah, like I remember Declan saying, in order for us to be the best, we've got to play the best and we got to learn. And that's why, come back to the 2016 point, that was such an important moment for us because we'd never beat New Zealand. And we got that monkey off our back, And then it became, okay, can we do it at home? We nearly did it 2 weeks later, but then New Zealand showed their class of evolving their game, and they brought an aggression to that game that I've never seen before, or I had never seen up until that point. And then, then the narrative was like, we can never beat them at home. Then we did it in 2018. Then the narrative became, well, you'll never do it away. And then we did it last year. And that's I'm trying to frame the respect we have for the New Zealand side, because I saw an article, someone said basically Ireland are the New England in terms of arrogance. And I took offense to that, because we have incredible respect for the New Zealand side, and we have every right to be confident, but we're not arrogant, because we set our standard to them, and they have helped us get better, and that's what happens when you're number one in the world. Everyone wants to be you, and everyone wants to beat you, and the kind of tables have turned now coming into this game, but that just shows we wanted to. They helped us get better, and this game on Saturday, will help both teams get better, because this will go a long way. Like, this kind of competition at a quarterfinal stage will battle hard on both sides to kick on in the comp. Sorry, I've completely sidetracked your question. Sorry.
No, you've actually answered it, because the question was that the day in Chicago when the dynamic changed between Ireland and the All Blacks? And by the sounds of what you've just been saying, that's exactly what's happened. You look at the games the two nations have played in the time since, and, it's nothing like everything that had come before. So something must have happened that day in the Irish psyche to say, you know what, we can beat these guys. And you have consistently in the time since.
Yeah, I think, we always used to say, play New Zealand going, they'll get their purple patch, because they're such a quality side, right? New Zealand don't need a whole lot to score tries. Like, they don't. They can expose. And actually, when you look at New Zealand, a lot of those tight games are down to moments like that. That separates championship sides to everyone else, where when they get their moment, they take it. Because in international rugby, you're watching footy long enough, right? At the top level, between those top four sides, it's moments that separate them. It's moments like that's what separated us against South Africa. Not South Africa. The South Africa game, but the Scotland game even last week. We get out the gates real quick. We expose a chink in their armor, and we expose it really quickly in the first 5 minutes. Then we get 20 minutes of pressure from the Scottish side. There's like pounding our line. Our guys very comfortable defensively, and then the minute they get up in their half, boom, there's 4 tries before halftime. Game is over, And I'd say in past times playing against New Zealand, that's usually what happens. You would be, we kind of have a foothold in this game, and then boom, they score tries. And where it was different in 2016, as well as, if you remember, Sexto got injured really early in the game. Jordy Murphy got injured really early in the game. We had to go into our bench, and you have someone like a person whose parents are Kiwis, Joey Carberry, came on, and everyone would have been like, "Oh, we're going into our bench here. I don't know if we'll do it," but we still got the job done. We weathered the storms. The Kiwis came back in 2016, but then we were able to push on the last 20 minutes and get up into their half and take the opportunity with like Robbie's try, for example, and Zeebs' try in the second half as well, and that's. We've gotten comfortable in weathering an All Black storm, I think, is a big difference. And then that gives you confidence, because this side can be very patient, the Irish side, and they can weather the storm, they can weather the pressure. I think as well, even philosophically, our defensive system, I think the Southern Hemisphere's teams tend to defend people and not space. Well, we've probably drifted more to a system where we defend space, not people. And what I mean by that is, let's say there's a 50-meter short side, we'll put 3 people across there kind of regardless, and defend the space as such, and be quite comfortable defending the space, while even if there's only 2 people there, while Southern Hemisphere teams tend to, we'll put 2 people there and mark 2 on 2. And that just shows the evolution of where we're playing. We're trying to manipulate sides to to expose the space and then back our skills to get into it and use it. And I think that's going to be. I think that's the difference between that might potentially be the difference in the two sides coming into this game. But it was a huge moment for us. A huge moment. And even if you rewind, we got glimpses of the of chinks, let's call it, or our ability to expose chinks back in 2013. Joe took over first game, and we pushed you guys literally to what, the last 3 minutes of the game, I think it was, when your bench made a difference, came on and scored. I can't remember who scored the try in the corner.
It was Ryan Crotty.
And then Crotty, yeah, and then you slotted it over to get the win.
Yep.
It was going to be a draw otherwise. And that was a warning shot, I think. And we just kind of kicked on from there.
Just want to drill down into your area of particular expertise, the loose forwards. You look at 6, 7, 8 for Ireland, Peter O'Mahony, Josh van der Fleer, what a player, and Caelan Doris, who wears the 8 that you wore with such distinction. Where does that loose forward trio sit in terms of the great Irish loose forward trios, the ones you were part of? How influential are 6, 7, 8 for Ireland right now?
Well, I think the way the game is going, or the way the game has gone, where particularly both sides want high ball and play minutes, and they're going to back their fitness, back their skills under fatigue and under pressure. You need a dynamic pack, not just a dynamic back row. And where probably, what Andy has done here, he's forced every player to be a ball player, kind of like what New Zealand have been doing for a long time. We're probably very role specific in previous coaches and previous setups. And they've evolved their play. So like take Pete, for example, 4 years ago, Pete was very good at what he did, but he kind of stayed in a particular role as such. But he has evolved his play, and because he always had amazing ball playing skills. And I think he was in danger of maybe getting passed by other players and by not showing those skills in the new setup. And so he's kind of evolved his play, and that's the quality. That's a sign of real quality of players who are able to evolve the way they're playing, not stay static. Josh van der Fleer is another one. He's amazing around the field in terms of doing a open side specific role. But he's becoming a bit more of a ball player. And Caelan Doris is just like, I'd like to say I'm on his level, but he's a better player than me, right? And that's what you want to see. You want to see everyone taking what was there before them and evolving that and getting better and better. And this side, when I look across the side, I go, in times gone past, there is better players that have played for Ireland, but this is the best team Ireland have ever had. In terms of, if you took like a collective average, it's another level, I think. And at the core of it is this 6, 7, and 8 trio who could be ball players, could be poachers, can be ferocious tacklers, can be great line out options, and can do brilliant basics like clearing out. They can offload. It's definitely, in terms of, this as well with back rows, it's all about the blend, right? And they're definitely one of the best blends I've seen. And then you combine that with a really dynamic front five. It makes for a dangerous pack. They're not the biggest, and we never are, but they have an impact no matter what.
It's just been so educational and just brilliant talking to you, Jamie. Just before you go, though, you must feel as though this is close now, right? You look at this team, you've just outlined their strengths. There are very few weaknesses in this team. The only thing I can think of is they've never been beyond a Rugby World Cup quarter-final, but that doesn't seem to matter to a team that's won 17 test matches in a row against some big, big opposition. You must feel as though this could be the year you win the Rugby World Cup.
They have the best chance to do it. I mean, and so if the question is, can they win it? Of course they can win it. But can New Zealand win it? Of course New Zealand can win it. Can South Africa win it? Yes. Can France win it? Yes. Will they do it? Is like on the day, man. Either side could win. Okay, and like unfortunately, like that hang up of the quarterfinal, I think that's more of a hang up of all the fans and supporters. And unfortunately, like the hoodoo of the quarterfinal and Irish psyche, like if they don't win, they're going to get judged on that. And I think that's unfair because, and everyone around the world will be like, oh, you can't get past the quarterfinal. And I think it's unfair to judge the team on that. Because they're the best Irish side that I've ever seen. And I've been part of some amazing Irish sides. I've been part of some amazing Irish sides that, 2011 when we got to a quarterfinal playing Wales, we probably came into it as favourites, but Wales kind of nullified a lot of our attacking threats. 2015 when we get to Argentina, we had a raft of injuries, and then Argentina actually exposed the weakness in our defensive system. That kind of drift defense that we have, they just absolutely gassed us on the side and ate up those kind of 10, 15 meters every time on the side, and just easily got down into our half. 2019, they were probably exposed in terms of not evolving their play. Do you know what I mean? They had a very structured play. New Zealand disrupted that, and were the better side on the day. And it'd be unfair to judge the side on the quarterfinal, but unfortunately, that's sport though. They will be judged on it. I feel for them. But what'd be awesome here? I think the advantage we have coming into this game versus New Zealand is that I could say we're probably more battle hardened given the games we've had to play. New Zealand had a really tough opening game. Now, granted, they had a couple of players injured that are now back, which is kind of going understated up here, which is a bit strange and worrying in my eyes. But that could have an effect on New Zealand in terms of that intensity and tempo that you have to play at that level, and what Ireland have done, in the South Africa game. Then it just teed up really nicely. They had a bit of a mixed start in the warm-up games. Then they kind of hit their straps then in the two they're basically like warm-up games, let's be honest, the first two group games. And then boom, massive game with South Africa. And then I think it was more important for us to win that game than South Africa coming into the break that we had. I think would have hung over us if we'd lost. But I think they worked out well. They took about 3-4 days off afterwards. All the lads, they stayed in France, obviously, but kind of went off with their families and stuff and mentally decompressed, because I think physically, obviously they're physically fit, right? But I think mental and emotional energy needed to build back up for the Scotland game, and then build back up for this game. And then all the other games that are going to follow, you need that mental capacity to be able to do it. New Zealand obviously are very comfortable, and they've done it before, so they know what they need to keep in reserve. Ireland never done it. So I think that break was really important. But on the day, I mean, who knows? Everyone in Ireland's like, do you think they can do it? It's like, I think they can do it. But it will take a massive effort. They will have to be better than they were against Scotland. Because this Kiwi side, a wounded All Black side is a dangerous thing. I experienced it back in 2016, and they came out 2 weeks later, and oh my goodness, they absolutely kicked the shit out of us, to be honest. And it still went to the wire, right? But it's whatever the result, it's going to be a hell of a game. My head and my heart say Ireland can do it, and I think they obviously they have to do it if you want to win the World Cup, but the signal it will send, if they're able to beat New Zealand and go on then to a semi-final, probably against Wales, that's another battle, because Gats just is a master of building momentum in squads, and Wales, they're not a great side, but they're a very tough side to beat. And then the battle in the final, like if they do it with the playing population that we have, which is quite small in comparison to New Zealand and other sides, it will be a huge achievement, I think, and it will elevate the status of a lot of these players worldwide. It'll elevate Ireland's standing worldwide. I I keep saying with Johnny Sexton, like Johnny Sexton, I think the argument about who the best player ever for Ireland is done. Johnny Sexton is it. And I think this World Cup is kind of to what the last Soccer World Cup was for Messi. You know what I mean? I think if they can do it, Johnny's then in the conversation with like Carter, Wilkinson, these type of tens, I think, in terms of all-time GOATs. And it'd be amazing. It'd be amazing to do that, but a lot has to go right. We have to our level of efficiency in the Scotland game in terms of like our return on investment of opportunities and time in opposition half was a lot better than it was against South Africa, and it has to go up another gear against a side like New Zealand. Because New Zealand will score tries, they'll be pretty scabby and giving you opportunities to score yourself, and they have to take them. But I'm going to be watching the game alone by myself here at home with a strong whiskey in my hand, and that's almost to settle the nerves. But the anticipation and excitement around this is huge, and I'm actually curious. Like, obviously, I'm not down in New Zealand, so what's the vibe in New Zealand around this? Like, what's the sense in New Zealand? Like, are they, not that they're scared of Ireland, but like, what's the attitude down there?
I think it's almost exactly what you said. Can they beat Ireland? Yes, they can. Will they beat Ireland? Well, that is a long bow, because, in the last couple of meetings, obviously when Ireland were down here, that has left some mental scarring. Ireland were better than us across those 3 games. You look at the 17 test match wins in a row, the way they've played in this World Cup, not just South Africa, but the way they just swatted Scotland away. The Scotland side that was supposed to be a test for Ireland, they were just brushed aside. New Zealand have had, wins over some pretty lackluster opposition, and the loss to France first up. I'll tell you what, though, the game kicks off at 8 o'clock in the morning here. I think there'll be a couple having a stiff whiskey here as well, just to get themselves sorted out, because it is one Herculean challenge coming up, I tell you that.
Well, you know what? There'll definitely probably be a couple of rollovers from tonight in New Zealand coming into it. That wouldn't surprise me. But isn't it great that isn't it great that you've got 2 quality Southern Hemisphere sides, 2 quality Northern Hemisphere sides, and if the balance of power was in the Southern Hemisphere favor, let's say over the last, I don't know, 10 years, let's say 8 years, it's definitely kind of quite even now, and it's at a bit of a tipping point potentially. It'd be, personally, I think it'd be great for World Rugby if a Northern Hemisphere side win the World Cup, particularly coming into the 2027 cycle for the next one down in Australia. Australia, we're both not sad to see Australia not being competitive right now, but a lot will have to change, because they've got the Lions coming in 2025. You've got World Cup in 2027. I'm sure they're going to want to turn that boat around, and they have to pretty quickly. But it'd be great for World Rugby for that. You've seen some of the Tier 2 nations. That's been great for the game. The Portugal game stands out to mind from last weekend, for example. I think we need a Northern Hemisphere side to win it, to kick it on again, and it's going to be an absolute cracker. Like, it's on 8 o'clock Saturday night our time, and I can tell you now, lads, all the pubs are going to be absolutely rammed. Paris is pretty much going to be like Dublin, if I'm honest. And the great thing about this side is it's kind of bringing together, all the, if you look at the team and where everyone's from, it has a real good collective island feel to it. And there's people from all around the island, from all different places, who are in this team. And all the fans who are at the games are representing that. And it's really good from a getting the Irish people kind of involved in it. And you've seen the scenes, I'm sure, of them singing "Zombie" after the team, and the team kind of go around, and it's not a lap of honor. It's almost a lap of thanks to all the supporters who are coming out, because like, it ain't cheap to fly to a World Cup, stay in a city like Paris, get the tickets, and do all that. Particularly in a time where the cost of living is causing a lot of issues for a lot of different people. And this side definitely know the sacrifice people are putting in, and it's kind of mimicking, right? The sacrifice, dedication the players are doing, the supporters doing it as well. And if they can, I think they have that. It's not a weight in their shoulders. It's almost like a booster rocket for them coming into the game. I'm sure it's the same in New Zealand, but it'd be very special in Irish kind of sporting legacy for them to do this. But we touched on it. It's easier said than done.
Well, whatever happens, I undertake to have a shot of whiskey at full time. If you'll undertake to do the same, we'll do it on opposite sides of the world, regardless of the result. Jamie, it's been absolutely brilliant to have you join us across New Zealand, mate. All the very best of luck to you and to your countrymen. I'm sure it's reciprocated. Look forward to seeing what plays out in Paris.
Cheers, bud. Yeah, it's going to be a hell of a game, and I hope the Irish side do it and they come out on top. But no matter what, it's a cliche. Rugby will win on this one, but it's going to be it's going to be a great game.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.